I mean, personally for me, I'm only 33. I'm not ready to call it quits by any means yet. Kura Home is my retirement plan, and maybe I'll be 40 when that happens. Maybe my kids will buy me out when I'm 65 or 70. But I think one thing that because we're not immune to any of those problems by any means. I just try to rip the Band-Aid off really fast. If we have a customer complaint that my management team can't handle, I just call the customer immediately and say, hey, I'm the owner. Tell me what, like, sounds like we made a mistake at your house. Tell me what happened. And I can fix that stuff so fast rather than like having a meeting with my team, hearing their side and doing all this stuff. I just rip the Band-Aid off. But I delegate, Devin. It's got to be too much. I swear it's becoming a problem how much I delegate. My wife even like, she's like, so what do you even do at Kura Home anymore? And granted, I feel like I'm the visionary and doing that stuff. But for me, I'm in it for the long haul.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Growth. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Daniel Felt. With Daniel, we're going to be talking about a few things that have been going on with this business in the past several months, including moving into a new business and then pulling back on marketing to increase the profits and focusing more on referrals, and also moving from a franchise to a licensing model and going around teaching people how to run a business and license for life. So should be a great conversation. With that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Daniel.
Thanks, Devin. Great to be here.
Hey, excited to have you. So now, just as a quick reminder to the audience, so Daniel's been on the previous couple podcasts with the sister podcast, both the Inventive Journey and the Inventive Expert. So definitely encourage you to go and check out his previous episodes there. But for those people that haven't had a chance to catch those episodes yet, or earmarked them for the future, give everybody a quick introduction to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I grew up on a hobby farm in central Minnesota, one of 6 kids. I studied business marketing in college, worked for a few companies, and decided to start my own company in 2016 out of my garage. Since then, we've grown. We've tried a lot of different avenues, try and error, things that work and don't work. And that's gotten us to the point today where we have about 800 customers on a routine maintenance subscription for their home. Our average client signed on last year pays about $418 per quarter. And about 45% of our business is one-time services like air duct cleaning, dryer vent cleaning, and AC unit cleaning.
Awesome. Well, sounds like a fun business and definitely a great area to be in. So now we've previously talked about the journey of how you got here and what the business is and shared some of your expertise. But for the Inventive Growth, we really kind of focus on, hey, what's happened in the last several months? What's been going on? Have things been status quo? No, I don't know that any business is really status quo, but if things been just, continuing on the path, or there have been adjustments or changes or things that you're trying out new, or things that haven't gone as well, or things that have learned. And so it's really an opportunity for us to kind of catch up on how the last several months have been going for you. So I'd hit on a few as far as during the introduction, but tell us a little bit about how the last few months have gone for the business. What's been going on?
Yeah, we've definitely made some large shifts. We originally tried to expand our company by corporate-owned locations, and that was really difficult to control our quality. So we actually had tried a franchise route, and that wasn't working very well because a lot of people that want to buy, I think for our business to be successful, you need a owner involved in it. And I think a lot of people that were looking at it were people that kind of wanted like a plug and play, like McDonald's, for example. You have a manager in place, get a bunch of teenagers, you're good to go. So with that, I was talking to a few people and they said, why don't you try selling it as a license, as a bolt-on? So in the last few months, that has taken off. We've had a lot of inquiries and we've sold our first 2 licenses. So we have I'm calling it a sister company that we have. So we have a company in Seattle that Keith is running that there, and it's his own company. He calls it Maintain Home Services. If you look at his website and you look at our website, you'd say, holy cow, these guys are plagiarizing each other. But he's basically, we got him in touch with all of our systems, all of our processes. And then Colin down in the Orlando, Florida area just left last week from training, and he'll be doing the same thing. So we're sharing with them all the tips and tricks, everything that we've done over the years, the things that we figured out, it's a lot of things that we recommend. Hey, don't do this. Don't waste your time on this type of marketing. Focus here, and to really kind of give you an accelerated path of fewer decisions to make and juggle as a business owner, saying like, hey, here's what's worked really well for us, and you go and do that. So I think a lot of business owners out there, you might feel like you're crazy because you're an entrepreneur. You might be the only entrepreneur in your circle or your friends, but this has been really nice for people joining that, just to know that, hey, I'm not alone here. I have someone who has my best interest in mind, and we're helping them grow. So had great feedback, having really good. I'm really happy. I hate confrontation, and this entire licensing process has just been a win-win situation, and both licensees so far are very happy and doing very well.
No, it sounds like an awesome. Now, walk us through a little bit, because so you started out, if I understand it right, you're going to have corporate owned, and correct me where I'm wrong. Corporate owned basically means we own it, we open up the location, we run it, we manage it, we staff it, we are the business. And then you went from there to franchise, which franchise is generally, hey, we build a brand. We establish all the systems. You come in, you leverage our branding, leverage our expertise. You start up a franchise with that branding and that name, and while you own it, it's still if it's under the corporate structure. Now, what? And then, if I understand it, lasting is licensing, and licensing is they keep their own branding, they keep their own their reputation that they've set up. You come in and offer a lot of the systems that you have in place, and lessons learned, and things that are would help to improve their business. So how did you kind of what caused the transition between each of those, or kind of how did you progress or land on kind of to go in the licensing route?
Yeah, I think the largest problem with the corporate owned locations was I really value my work-life balance. I don't miss dinner with my family. That's really important to me. And with that, these guys were in the locations, they're really great people, but asking them, like, hey, I want you to try to go do this initiative or that initiative, it wasn't being done, and we weren't willing to babysit these guys and micromanage them to all get out. And so after a while, when things were kind of starting to get to the point where it's like, hey, like, I think the trust kind of started to fall through, and I think if I would have been willing to send someone or myself go visit these locations on a regular basis, it probably would have been different. But at the end of the day, they were fine. Like, they were profitable, pretty quickly, which was nice for us. But at the end of the day, it's like, what's your time and what's your reputation worth? So with that, because we were thinking like, hey, maybe we could, because we opened up in, I think it ended up being 5 locations between Colorado, Texas, Georgia, and Chicago. And we ended up ultimately closing those because it just wasn't worth it trying to manage these people in other locations. So we switched to a franchise, and the main and franchises, if you've never tried to sell one, which I assume is most people, it's a 0.05 or 0.5 to 1% close rate. So you've got to work with 100 to 200 people, getting them through all this stuff, and talking to the right guy here, Devin, about the legal process of going through all that was just a nightmare. And I'm a rule follower, and like I enjoy being able to fall asleep at night, but man, the rules and the different states and all this stuff, and registration rates, non-registration, it was so complex to get to that point. And so many people that we talked to at the end of the day, they were already in the home service industry. Like, they were already a plumber or pest control, all the things. And they're like, well, how do I mingle the two brands? Because if that was the closest that we got to people to the closing table, but then that was a huge issue of like, I don't want to run 2 different brands, where, because you're already an entrepreneur and now you're wanting to bolt this onto your business, where if you were not an entrepreneur and now you're wanting to start this new business, I don't think a lot of people were willing to do what it takes. I think they were looking more so for a job where just tell me exactly what to do. And this was more of like, hey, you got to put a little effort into. So as soon as we switched to the licensing concept, it started clicking with people, and we're having much more in-depth conversations. And the only thing right now that's really holding people back is that there is a cost to join into that. And so we're working around creative ways, like affordable financing and things like that, to get some of those barriers down for people, so that it's a no-brainer for them.
So now and I think that makes sense, or with I don't know, one exception. Exception sounds like I disagree, but the question would be is, if you do already have your own business, they do already have their own brand. They've been in, I would assume, in business for a period of time. The hurdle seems to me is, well, I've already got it figured out, or I've already built this brand. What value do you add? So kind of, just curious, as you're switching or switching to the licensing model, kind of what is that picture? Because I think it's an interesting or different approach, because usually it's either, as you started out, corporate owns everything and you get to manage and maintain it, and you get the profits from it. You do a franchise and then people pay you a franchising fee, both kind of as an upfront and an ongoing. And licensing kind of takes a different approach. But how do you help to convey the value that it offers when they're not getting that brand, or they're not getting necessarily those direct marketing services or some of the other things that normally come with a franchise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question, Devin. I think where the majority of people that we're talking to, I don't want to say like stuck is the right spot, because they're not stuck in their business, but I feel like they've hit all these ceilings. And for you've built these businesses, from your intro of getting to all these multi figures, and that's such a rarity. There's so many, the bucket of people operating a business between 100,000 and $1 million is so much larger than the million plus. And so a lot of these people that we're talking to, they're stuck. They're stuck at 150, 3, 750, 800. They can't get through this, and they've been there for years, 3, 4, 5 years. They just keep on hitting the same thing. They're not seeing any growth. They're stuck in their business. So for them, I think what they see it as this is a brand new door that's opening for them, that they see as a way out of that mundane day-to-day stuff. So we have people that they're thinking about, hey, I like one guy who was talking to us. He was going to hire a business coach for $35,000 a year, and it's like, well, if you're getting a business coach / mentor just through us, if you hire us, and we're literally in your field. So that's where it is. I think someone who's running a 1.5 to $5 million home service company, this probably isn't for you, because you've got so many systems and processes in place. Some of these gentlemen that we've been speaking to, they don't have a CRM system. They're doing pen and paper. They don't have the systems and processes in place to allow them to grow. So I think what these people are really looking for is a hand up and a successful roadmap of, I'm willing to do the work. They have the motor there. They've got the engine to go. It's just they keep hitting the ceiling that is really frustrating for them.
No, makes sense, and sounds like it gives the ability for people to grow and expand, and get systems and other things in place to kind of make it to that next level. So now, one of the other things, maybe just shifting gear, that I think you mentioned as well, as a couple things, I guess. One is that you decided to pull back a little bit on marketing to increase profit margins, as well as to focus more on referrals. So kind of what prompted that, and how did you make that shift or adjustment?
Yeah. Ultimately, like the game of chasing Facebook leads and things like that. I mean, it's fine. Like, I think in the very beginning, and you start putting a pretty large percentage into it. I think at one point we were putting 18% of the previous month's sales into the next month's marketing, and so you're really spending money. But the nice thing about the recurring subscription based model with our clients is, hey, if you slow down here a little bit, you can actually cash flow quite nicely. And for us, like I'm kind of constantly, I'm an old soul at heart. I feel like I enjoy a cup of coffee with 80-year-olds, and we speak the same language, but I really love real estate. And so looking at the business and looking at the profitability of it all, you start to look at it and it's like, hey, do we want to continue growing, or do we want to at one point here reap some of the benefits and give some bonuses and things like that to some of the employees? Because when you're growing really, really fast, it's kind of like a rocket ship. When it takes off, it uses such a large percentage. It's like 90% of the fuel just to get that first few miles, and then from there it's such a low amount. And so that's kind of how it is with a business. It takes so much time and money to get that thing going in the beginning. So for us, what we really looked at for unique way, and it kind of goes back to the licensing thing, is how do we add a huge value add? And my thing, and you can quote me on this, is I can help you start a business without spending any money on marketing, and through all of our referral partnerships. So we're still putting an effort into marketing, but the problem is that if you look at for routine maintenance in the Minneapolis metropolitan area, where 3.5 million people live, 18 searches a month happen on Google for routine home maintenance. So you're not going to be getting any clients there, at least for some of these other services, it's into the thousands, but you can't buy your clients, quote unquote, by advertising for them. And so you have to get creative. And so that's what we've really done. So we've gone from spending $15,000, $20,000, sometimes $22,000 a month on sales to we're spending about $1,300 a month on marketing. We're spending about $1,300 a month on marketing right now. And And a lot of that's almost like things that because I know the person, hey, we'll run this, like we'll run the radio ad or do whatever. So it's all pretty minor at this time.
No, sounds like a good pivot now, a good shift. Now, one of the questions, you make the claim, so to speak, that, hey, we can help to grow your business without marketing, and yet a lot of people are going to be hesitant, right? So in other words, hey, that'd be awesome. I'd love to have lots of referrals and people that are sending me along business, but I don't know anybody, or I'm not a good networker, or I don't do any of those things. And it's different if you naturally have that network, or you enjoy going out, you enjoy meeting with people, you enjoy doing that versus not. So how do you, as you're now kind of shifting to that licensing model and helping people get that into place, I assume part of that is helping them to leverage the referral type of a network. What does that look like for people?
Yeah, as we're talking to people, first we're as much as they're interviewing us, we're kind of pre-qualifying them as well and just making sure that they're right fix. We don't want you to invest in something that we don't think you're going to be successful right off the get-go. So for us, it's all about, and some people this isn't crazy, but like for me, it's such a daily part of our business that it just seems like such a perfect routine. But you look at the dentist to orthodontist relationship and how the orthodontist probably wouldn't have any customers if it wasn't for the dentist referring them work. And it's the same thing for us. It's like, hey, who do you know? Who knows your customer before you do? And you start networking with those people. We have dozens of companies that refer us work, and I get a report every single Monday on where all of our leads came from the previous. And it's repetitive. And I've asked these guys, like, hey, can I take you out for lunch? Can I buy you a cup of coffee? Like, where do you can I send you a Cabela's gift card or whatever it is? And they're like, no, man, just keep doing a great job. Like, we love what you do. And so they don't even want anything in return. They just want you to do a great job for their clients because that makes them look great. So ultimately it's, hey, are you willing to, rather than spending all the money on $10,000, $15,000 a month on Google and Facebook and supporting that, are you willing to put some time into building relationships that in a world pandemic, if you get hacked, let's say someone takes over your CRM system or whatever, what doesn't break down? Those referral relationships. They never do. Like they're always going. And so working on that, it's just such a great long-term sustainable method for growing a business. And yeah, short-term, I could get 100 customers today by blasting a video and putting a couple $1,000s behind it, but that's not what we're all about anymore.
No, makes sense, and sounds like it is a good transition and good shift both for you as well as the licensing partners that you work with. So now, one of the other exciting things that I think, or I'll say it's exciting. It could go either way. Is that you guys moved into a new building? Typically, a new building most of the time is because, hey, we're growing, we're expanding, we need better location, we need better facilities, we need more room. Now, I guess technically, new building could also be, hey, we're shrinking and we're about ready to go under and we're trying to cut costs or whatever. So, fill us in. Is it the former or the latter as far as in the new building, and kind of how has that gone?
Yeah, no, it's a good scenario for us. We've been renting or leasing a space. I signed a short-term lease on that for about 3 years, and kind of been looking for spaces, and this one came up. It was a really good opportunity for us as a business. We, same as everyone, right? You've gotten used to working from home or whatever, and so my team can mostly work from home. But at the end of the day, my guys need a place to come and get inventory. We get a semi full of salt about every 6 weeks. We have all these filters. You can imagine the amount of different types of filters and smoke alarm batteries and refrigerator filters, all the things that go into maintaining a home. And then you take that times 800. So it's a good thing for us. We ended up purchasing a 22,700 square foot building right in if you're looking at the Minneapolis metropolitan area, it's just slightly to the west in one of the next suburbs in Golden Valley. And the benefit for this building is that we're probably going to end up paying about the same as what we were paying in rent. If I'm able to find someone to rent out the other portion of the building that we won't be using. There's a lot of interest right now. Warehouse space is in high demand. We're just trying to find the right fit. What I don't want to do is jigsaw it together where I've got like 5 tenants and each one's renting like 3,000 square feet. But we'll get there. The first mortgage is due here in a couple of days, and we're fine. The wife and I haven't started eating ramen noodles or anything by any means, but it'll be really nice to get a renter in there and sign a long-term lease. And we're a little bit involved in short-term rentals. I've had a long-term rental before residentially, but this is our first adventure into commercial real estate. And so far it's been a very educational experience.
Well, sounds like it's been both a great learning experience and a great opportunity as the business expands and grows. So that's awesome.
For sure.
Well, now as we've gone through that a bit, I mean, I think the other thing that we've touched on just a little bit, and one that you've hit on is kind of that continual balance of work and life and how you do it, and that's everything from whether you have an office space or work from home to which model the business works under and that. So how has that been going? And my personal feeling is it seems like with everything else in life, at least for me, at times the ebbs and flows. Sometimes I feel like I do a really great job and I keep that balance, and other things it starts to get out of balance and I have to readjust. So kind of how is that ongoing effort to keep that balance been going for you?
Yeah, it's been going really well. I think I'm currently at a point, like our company is moving this week, and I have been at the office for about 2 hours of that. It's just things are happening, and I'm really becoming more and more trusting of my team as time goes on. I'm currently training for an Ironman triathlon, and I'm in the heat of it because that's like 5 weeks out, and so. If you've ever done any sort of race of this distance, right, you train up until about 3 weeks beforehand, and then you kind of taper back down, and so I'm in the heart of blocking off about 3 to 4 hours per day to allow for these 4 or 5 hour bike rides and 3 hour runs and things like that. So for me, my work life balance is really great. It's almost too great because I'm out here training and doing all this stuff. So I have an incredible executive assistant who does a lot of really keeps my life on track, and she basically knows what I'm doing, and takes care of the easy, mundane tasks. I was talking to a gentleman this morning who his business is growing. He's got a couple employees, and he's like, "How do you know when to hire that person?" And it's like, well, when you when your time when you don't want to put the time in, you're willing to put the money into it. You're willing to buy that freedom. That's when it's time, because he needs a salesperson. He's out there doing sales calls all day long, and he's not running his business. So so yeah, so for me, I love being a dad. It's like my son got accepted into preschool for next fall, for it's like 4 hours a week, and granted 4 hours is whatever, but it's sad. I'm sad to see that we're going through those stages where in no time at all it'll be kindergarten, and then he'll be gone more and more, and all of a sudden I'll be dropping him off at college in a couple seconds here, it seems like. So I'm soaking up every moment as a dad.
Awesome. Well, sounds like it's been able to attain that balance, and it's always always a continual effort to make sure it stays in balance, but always a great place to be when you reach it. So,
Most definitely.
well, now as we've kind of caught up on where your journey's at, kind of the updates, where things are at, or kind of seeing how things have been going for you. Great time to transition to the two questions always ask at the end of, or just the one question. I said two, but I'm only going to promise one. But the question I like to ask at the end of each episode, which is, I think with every business, and it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit, just like the balance we talked about. But at points you'll get worn out with your business. You'll either get tired, you'll get burned out, you'll put in a ton of hours, you'll have some clients that are unhappy, you get to deal with less than fun things or whatever that is, and so you get to the points of you get a bit worn out with the business. And when you reach that point, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I'm only 33. I'm not ready to call it quits by any means yet. Kura Home is my retirement plan, and maybe I'll be 40 when that happens. Maybe my kids will buy me out when I'm 65 or 70. But I think one thing that because we're not immune to any of those problems by any means. I just try to rip the Band-Aid off really fast. If we have a customer complaint that my management team can't handle, I just call the customer immediately and say, "Hey, I'm the owner. Tell me what, like, sounds like we made a mistake at your house. Tell me what happened." And I can fix that stuff so fast, rather than like having a meeting with my team, hearing their side and doing all this stuff. I just rip the Band-Aid off. But I delegate, Devin. It's got to be too much. I swear it's becoming a problem how much I delegate. My wife even, like, she's like, "So what do you even do at Kura Home anymore?" And granted, I feel like I'm the visionary and doing that stuff. But for me, I'm in it for the long haul. I also think that because we've done aggressive growth, if someone came out to me and was like, "Hey, I'll put a valuation on your company," I think because we've tried to grow so quickly and all that stuff, we were lean for quite a few years, and so someone might look at it, and what I value the company at and what they value at it, it's going to be two completely different things right now. Now, as we're leaning out here on some of these costs like marketing, things like that, that might be a completely different story in a few years. But I think Unfortunately, I don't know if it's greed or what. I think my number is a little too high for anyone to be offering at that time. So I don't think my number can be hit quite yet.
Well, sounds like a good place to be. And I think if I were to take away, when you get worn out and or when you're approaching that, then look to be able to delegate it, look to be able to trust the team, offload what you can, and focus on what you enjoy, so that you can avoid that. And then, as you said, sometimes you just have to rip off the Band-Aid if it's something that you're worn out with. Rip it off, get it taken care of, and then go back to what you enjoy. So I think that's a great answer and some great takeaways. Well, now as we wrap up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be a licensee, they want to be a investor, they want to be an employee, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Yeah, you can find us on the web at kurahome.com. Otherwise, we are very, very active on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn especially. So find us on any of those. We'd be happy to connect.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, connect, support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again, Daniel, for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners that are out there, if you can help us to make sure to share these episodes with even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey, just click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Really helps us to help even more startups and small businesses. And on that note, if with your startup, your small business, you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else, feel free to reach out to us, grab some time. Just go to strategymeeting.com. Well, thank you again, Daniel, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you.